Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, there is another development in that story about LSU, about Angel Reese, First Lady Joe Biden, and all of that situation. We're going to share with you what LSU has to say about that invitation to the White House. Also, we're going to be checking in with author Russell Kirkman of Maybe It's Me, as he talks about charting and finding happiness in life. We'll have that conversation. And I got something for you for today's trends, posts, and doing the most. So stay with us. A lot to discuss. Join us in the conversation on YouTube, Facebook, and we're streaming live on Amazon News, the Black Star Network. Let's get ready to get into it. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about as there has been another development in that story about LSU and about that invitation that was extended by First Lady Jill Biden earlier this week as a result of LSU's victory over Iowa, and how that invitation has caused so much controversy. We talked about it yesterday, how initially First Lady Jill Biden had invited both LSU and Iowa to come to the White House as a result of that dynamic game. However, it was reported yesterday on Tuesday that, guess what? That the First Lady misspoke, and essentially that Iowa will not be present, but LSU will certainly be invited, as it's been part of the tradition for the victor to visit the White House. Well, as of that situation, of course, LSU's most valuable player, Angel Reese, had said that her and her teammates would not accept the invitation, and however, that they would rather go see the Obamas rather than the Bidens to celebrate their victory. Now, folks, here's the latest word. LSU, the school, the institution, said, Madam First Lady, Mr. President, we will be going to see you at the White House. Let's bring in my brother, Shanadu Wakwafor, who is a specialist in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He is an advocate and an activist, and I'm so happy to have him joining me today to talk about this story. And folks, I want you to join us in the conversation as we have this discussion. Post your comments on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page as we're streaming right now, and also let your friends and family know we're on Black Star Network and Amazon News. Shanadu, my brother, this has been the big story, big controversy all week long. And there's so many layers to this, Shanadu. And I said it at the beginning of before we got on air. I think you and I are probably some of the most qualified to have this conversation, and I'll share my thoughts, but first let me start with yours. What do you make of this situation? Angel Reese was adamant, I'm not seeing the Bidens. But guess what? LSU is saying we're going to the White House. What do we make of this, bro?
Whiteness, money. You've seen this game before, and this is a different situation, but it comes to the same conclusion. You remember when Kyrie, had his thoughts and money came into the play, and all of a sudden Kyrie's thoughts started to change. Of course, LSU is going to go to the White House because money. LSU is an HBCU, is it not?
Right.
HBCUs are chronically underfunded, are they not? It would be out of their best interest, even if Jill Biden called them nappy-headed hoes. They still have to go because money. And that in itself is the most unfortunate thing about this situation. I do not understand why Jill Biden opened her mouth at all, because it is not protocol for the First Lady to invite anybody of that manner, especially in this magnitude. It's all racism. We know that. And, the sad thing about this is Jill Biden probably doesn't even know that she's a racist. And that's the interesting part here, because clearly in any other situation, you never invite the losers to come to that. That has never been done in the history of history. So
you said in the history of history.
In the history of history. And I stand, I do want to preface this. What I do not want people to do is now start bagging on the other team, because shout out to their, I forget Caitlin, I think is her name.
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark has been speaking the way most white allies should talk. She's not letting y'all divide them. She's bringing truth to power, and she's advocating that the winner should have their moment. That's how you do it.
Let me, hey, Keenan, pull up the quote, bro. Let's pull up that quote, because that's exactly what she did. And and after you say your remarks, Sinead, I'm going to add to the fire.
Of course you are.
Because I knew this was going to happen. And this is not an I told you so moment, folks. There are so many important lessons that we can glean from this miscommunication, as my sister Corinna has pulled us. She said, all of this, Lord, all this drama from miscommunication. Absolutely. But there's something in this, Corinna, and I think you and I can see this. But let's pull up that quote. I want folks to see exactly what Caitlin Clark said. She said, quote, I don't think runner-ups usually go to the White House. I think LSU should enjoy that moment for them. And congratulations, obviously they deserve to go there. Maybe I can go to the White House on different terms, though. That's for LSU. That's a pretty cool moment, and they should enjoy every single second of being a champion. Now, look, man. Sinead, bro. This is what happens, man. The thing is that Caitlin Clark is showing more sportsmanlike conduct than our little sister Angel Reese in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of the country around this whole drama.
Well, in the same way that a black boy in a hoodie is made dangerous, it is that perception. It is that. Let me tell you something. Caitlin could have been throwing up middle fingers, right? And they would have said it was just, the game. What Angel Reese did was, first of all, should we start with racism or should we go to misogyny? Because what Angel Reese did was 1/16 of what the guys be doing. And the fact that no one, and this is why I think that racism, classism, misogyny is conscious and subconscious. The fact that no one thought in the moment that this could just be the trash talk that is associated with sports, right? Together. No one thought that. Absolutely asinine to me. And sorry for those women on both sides, but most importantly, the winners, because now we're talking about everything but the win. Right. All right, can I add something to this discussion, bro? Come on, let's do it, man. So let me add something to this, y'all. Yesterday, I shared with you that in a big cultural moment like this, that Sinead, I shared with our online culture crew, with the watchers, that we should be in a position to protect the system. People kind of got mad at me. Some folks that came online, they were just upset. They said, well, why don't you let the sister speak? And here's what my take is on this situation very quickly. My take is sometimes you speak so much, you can speak yourself out of a good thing. I'm going to say that again, y'all. Sometimes when you speak and you speak so much, you can speak yourself out of a good thing. Now, look, we understand that our little sister Angel, she went through, her as an individual and then them as a team, they went through a hard year of all the criticism and all of the talk against them and all of that, right? So we understand the sentiment that she got. They grinded it out, got to the big game, and they were able to secure the first win for LSU for women's basketball program there. And that's a big victory. And to your point,
we should be celebrating that. But why aren't we talking about that anymore? Because we're doing so much talking, and our little sister, she's out there, but she's doing so much talking that she's talking herself in from a place where she had power to a place that she doesn't have power. And that's the harsh reality, bro, that she's coming up against in this whole situation. When you're on that court, you are a goddess. You are a queen. You dominate. But the moment you get off that court, that's not you anymore. So you say things because of the sentiment, because of the youthfulness that you have. You're saying things, but you're now speaking on a much larger platform, a much larger issue, right? You get an invitation from the White House. And I'm not saying that you may not have, however you feel about the bracket and all of that stuff is one thing. But now you're speaking in such a way that you're making yourself vulnerable. And look what happened. You spoke out of turn. You can't, as the team player, you can't speak for the team to say whether they are going to go or not go to a White House invitation. The coach of the team, Coach Mulkey? Mm-hmm. She said, I will accept the invitation. Now the school is saying in just one statement, let's put this statement up. Let's put what the school said. Oh, I didn't, not that one. Let me share this. In just one statement, the school came out and say, we accept the invitation from the White House. Now it makes our little sister Angel Reese look silly. Now she looks like she ain't got no power, bro. And now, as the people that, as we are part of the culture, we are the culture, we pumping it up. Oh man, say it. And some people got mad at me yesterday talking about let the sister speak. And if I was her advisor, I would tell Sister Angel, look, sis, I think you need to sit down and don't say anything else right now. Just let the situation play itself out. You dominated. You showed the world that you are a champion. You ain't got to say nothing else about it. That's all. Let that situation speak for itself. But now you talking about the president. You talking to the president of the United States and his first lady. Now, you may not have voted for him. You may not agree with his policies, but the respect for the office has to still be there because people are watching you. I hope I'm making sense, Sinead. Am I making sense, bro?
You are. And I there's two ways to look at that.
All right.
And two things can be right at the same time. Look, when you were speaking, I just thought about this analogy I always think about, when you eat food for nourishment and your body digests it. If you fail to eat food, your body starts eating other things within your body to survive and to sustain. I say that example to say that, unfortunately, truth of the matter is, Angel shouldn't have to speak at all. But it's a bigger thing of what, with all due respect, many generations weren't able to secure for her. And I'm not blaming them, but you don't ever hear people speaking in this way as it pertains to coming to the White House. It's not a thing. It's like, oh yeah, they come, they go, they take a picture, you keep it moving. But I think when put in a situation where she was, of course she had a response. And was it a youthful exuberance? It was. A wise man once said that this, next generation, they're not the wisest, but they're fearless. Farajii, you know what a wise man is.
Right.
And it's not over yet because when she gets there, there is room for her to express and make good of this. But I could only imagine what it feels like to work that damn hard and to get slapped down by the world. In the same way it's you talking to the president. No, the president was talking to me. The White House was talking to me and told me that my win was as good as the person who lost. That matters too, and that holds. It is always
and it's understandable. And bro, and nobody's saying that. Right. I gotta take a quick pause. But I trust and believe it's understandable that you want to speak out against it. Look, we're gonna take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're gonna continue the conversation. We're gonna continue to get your thoughts on this from my crew. I want to hear what y'all got to say. Corinna is she typing up a storm. I got so many of you that are checking in. I want to bring up Robin Welch. Robin, your thoughts. I'm gonna share it with folks, and let's talk about this. But I think that there is some major lessons that we can learn from this whole drama. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about LSU, the latest development in this story about the White House invitation for LSU. We've been talking about the fact that the LSU athletic department has officially accepted the invitation from the White House in spite of one of their star players, Angel Reese, saying that they were not going to join the Bidens at the White House. Angel said that that's what her and her teammates decided not to do. And not only did they say they never weren't going to join the Bidens, they said they'd rather celebrate with the Obamas. Now, here's the thing. I got my brother Sinead with me, who is a diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist as we have this conversation. And of course, folks, so many of you have been checking in to talk a little bit about this. Yes, this is a small thing that blew up into a big situation because there are so many layers to this, Sinead. There's race that really undercuts all of this, right? So there's the foundation of race, but then there's also this foundation of respectability politics that's there, right? And something that you pointed out, bro, which I think is important, understanding power. When it comes to power and relationships, you have to understand where you fit. Now, I know some of my crew members, they're saying, look, man, some of them are saying, let the sister speak. Let her say what she needs to say. But do you let the sister just speak and say what she needs to say, even though she's pushing herself further and further away from being sure? She's out in the ocean now. She went from the little pond that she was used to now the ocean. And she may not, where's the life raft to reel the sister in? Not to shut her down for speaking her truth, but to reel her in, to show her that you have to speak with the best of intelligence, especially when you're talking about to the President of the United States, when you're talking about proving a point. Here's the other part of it. She said that they wanted to celebrate with the Obamas. Check this out, Sinead. Her teammate, Angel Reese's teammate, Alex Morris, took to Twitter to ask Michelle Obama whether her team could celebrate their win at their house after President Barack tweeted his congratulations to the team, bro. See, what do we make of that?
I make that, now you might not want to hear this, but
go ahead.
In the grand scheme of this, sometimes I just feel like we all losing as Black people as a whole, because it's unfortunate. Even if Jill didn't say that statement, I'm sure that team would have rather celebrated with the Obamas, simply because first HBCU team to win, you might want to be with the first Black president and his wife, and for cultural reasons, still go to the White House because it's the right thing to do. But I think either way, they probably still would have asked to go to the Michelle Obama. I think, look, man, I'm a youngin', and this is my belief. And it's backed by statistical data. We may not agree with how these young people choose to speak or how their respectability politics is quite different from ours. But right. I think that's the thing. They're not looking. I don't think she wants power. And I think we have to be careful not to adultify her. This is still a young kid. This is youthful exuberance. She could have said many things differently, and I agree with that. But she also needs her opportunity to make those mistakes. Because I had those opportunities, and Farajii, you've had them as well. And I think right. It's on a grand scale, it sucks. But I think there is, and I'm no psychologist or sociologist, but I think, in my opinion, there is this inherent thing that when Black folks are speaking to the media or speaking to whomever, like we're supposed to have the highest level of intelligentsia and we're supposed to be speaking. We can make mistakes too. She can err. I think that's okay.
I don't disagree with you.
I think that's okay.
I don't disagree with you there.
But I think what happens is we honor her for speaking her truth and allow her to do that as is. And what we supposed to do is behind closed doors with no cameras, no Twitter, we take the people who know her, the people who can make a bigger effect on her, teach her about what did she want from that statement. Look,
let me jump in on this real quick.
Please.
You said that we can't adultify her.
Yes.
Which I think it generally happens. Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. We don't have to adultify her because the space that she's in is going to adultify her on its own. She's in a national spotlight. She's in a national NCAA sports program, right?
Sure.
She's speaking on issues, well, not issues, but she's speaking in response to a political situation. She's bringing in the fact, the Obamas. It's like we're not trying to adultify her. The circumstances is already adultify her. At this point, we're like, hey, man, I mean, this is how I'm feeling. And that some folks agree and some can disagree, and that's fine. But it's like, what's the end goal here? What is the end goal? Is the end goal to do what? The end goal to for everybody to have the same anger, the same what's the word I'm looking for, Sinead? You know what I'm saying? Like she felt like she was slighted because nobody put their faith in the LSU basketball team. So therefore, she got to let everybody know that they're here to stay. I get all of that. I trust and totally get it. But at the end of the day, she still is a student of LSU, right? At the end of the day, she still is a young woman, a young Black woman who has great potential, who can use that same energy, right, for other means. I don't want the little sister to be a has-been or an afterthought, because I know how these cultural moments can get. People are looking at her behavior now, and this is the thing, and that's why I said the Caitlin Clark thing was really interesting, because if you're showing that you don't know how to be, and again, this is not us doing it, but this is the industry that she's part of. I don't know whether she wants to go further in her sports career. I don't know whether she wants to, what she wants to do in the future. But you gotta think that how do I maximize this moment for my benefit? She's already gotten a lot of people on her side. But if you kind of go through this whole process and this moment as if you want to tear people down and you want to talk back, and I'm not saying she's doing that, but if it comes across as being disrespectful, you're not going to win friends with, you're not going to, you don't attract bees with oil and vinegar. You got to attract them with honey, bro.
Yeah, and I agree. And see, the thing is, and I want everybody to know, the thing is, this is a very fun, this is like if a tree falls down in the middle of the forest and no one's there to hear, it doesn't make a sound type of situation.
Right.
It's like, there's no right or wrong answer. Farajii is just as right as I am. And this is what brings me, now I'm a researcher at Mind. It brings me back to the origin. Black folk we are expected to do the impossible. We're talking about she should have said better. We're talking about that, she should know her power. This is a girl from Baltimore, the city that I live in.
Hey, come on, man.
I see kids who look and feel powerless every damn day, who watch opportunities not even pass them by. They're far, far off in the periphery. I think her even being at LSU to be in a position to be there is a statistical anomaly to begin with. And I agree. She made that clear in her statement that, see, again, I'm not a psychologist, but I think anybody who studies psychology, sociology, and people who study facial expressions should really watch that video. She looked so defeated, even in saying that, nobody, y'all never saw it from me. Nobody believed that. And I work with kids here in Baltimore. When I saw her, I saw that the 8th graders and 9th graders that I work with, females, who have said the exact same thing. And
I get that. Sinead, I get it, bro. I totally get it. And I'm glad that she got the platform, and I'm glad, but she is also inspiring those same young people that you work with, right? She's inspiring them on how to be. And I'm not saying you got to change your whole thing. I'm just saying that once you make your statement was made on the court. Your statement, you made your statement. Look, the institutions of power that dictate her success will make her look silly, make her look stupid. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's the White House, whether it's LSU, whether it's the culture in general, these will make her look silly. Let me get to my brother, Real Brooklyn. You checked in very quickly. You said, bruh, everyone is supposed to have a high level intelligence in front of the camera. She has to realize a lot of great ones went to that school. She has the torch now, and she needs to understand that. Absolutely.
Not everybody.
Absolutely. My sister Corinna, you know what I'm saying? My sister Corinna was talking about the fact that she just needs to just kind of get some tact, just to reel it in. You know what I mean? Because now you got this space, now you got this platform. You can be the poster child for talking about resilience, talking about, whatever, you know what I mean? Overcoming the insurmountable odds. You can really talk about that. But right now, you're going to be painted. Unfortunately, this ain't me, this ain't you, but this is the culture. You're going to be painted as the angry Black girl. Now, for the culture, is that good for the culture? When we got a bright, brilliant, talented young Black woman who's in this space, right? And we're trying to make moves, like you said, we're trying to make moves culturally. Do we need to have one of our dynamic sisters to be painted the angry Black girl? I don't know. I don't think so. But that's how the culture's gonna paint her.
Yeah, agreed. And I hear everybody, LSU is now, you know me, I could care less about any legacy of any, because what is that? It's nothing. It means nothing to me and to her experience, because she's now added to that exact legacy, if not taking it higher. I think, look, what is important for me, at least as a Black man, is that we can have these opinions, but we can have these opinions where the only people who can hear us is us. We have to be very cognizant to not have these conversations in front of the people who started this conversation in the first place, who is not us. So I would say that. I would say that. And second, I think this is a general consensus, because we talked about this at Morgan during the when we had protests. Be careful about the media. We just have to have rules of engagement, and that is a general thing that it's no different from the talk that we have to your Black sons and your Black daughters. We have to have a rules of engagement conversation, because again, no one's disagreeing with what she said. But like the second comment that you said about tact, that is the perfect word. She could have said there is many ways to say F you without saying F you.
Right.
And I think with age, I can't wait to see her grow, because with age, she'll get that tact.
All right, look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Hey, Chris, big, I saw your comment. I'm going to bring that into the discussion. Stay with us, folks. We still got a lot to talk about. So we talk about Angel Reese, LSU, and the White House. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
We feel the hidden impacts of climate change that land harder in Black, brown, and Native communities.
Not many people talk about it because they clearly don't know our lives. But with President Biden's landmark infrastructure and climate plans, our issues are finally seen.
Removing lead pipes means we know our water is safe. Cutting carbon pollution helps our kids breathe easier. 1.5 million new jobs means stable work in communities. The impact we need.
Right now.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all. All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about that controversial White House invitation from for LSU and Iowa. Well, now Iowa's out of the invitation, but for LSU, for their women's basketball team, and of course LSU basketball, the athletic department has accepted the invitation in spite of their star player Angel Reese and some of her teammates saying they will not go to the White House for their reasons. Now, I've been talking to my brother Sinedu Okorafor around this issue. Let me bring up some more of what you've been having to say about this topic, crew. Chris Bay, you said this, sir. You said, now y'all talking so much on the chat. I want to make sure I got the right one. Chris Big, you talked about you said her being a student at a PWI, a predominantly white institution, is exactly why she should keep speaking truth to power and not go. The whole team has a great opportunity to stand 10 toes down and affirm their power and position. Okay. Now, here's my thing. What's the end goal for that, though, Chris? Is the end goal to tell Vice President, First Lady Jill Biden that, you know what, it was wrong for you to invite Iowa? Well, Angel Reese didn't have to speak on that because guess what? Everybody else spoke on how silly that was. Caitlin Clark spoke on that. Angel Reese didn't really have to speak on that. She didn't have to say a word. Again, this is what I'm saying. There is great power in silence when you know how to use it. In the Art of War, it talks about when you're engaged in any type of warfare, one of the most significant weapons that you have to learn to master in warfare is timing. Timing. So if you hear that the First Lady inviting Iowa and LSU, before you even jump on a podcast, before you even just get out in the public space, see what the people say first. Let the timing be, let me see what everybody else say. And boom, instantly, immediately, Sinedu, people were like, well, wow, they invited. And then this happened, this happened. You ain't got to say nothing. You don't even have to jump in the mix because guess what? People are riding with you all from the very beginning. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that level of guidance, that level of wisdom, that level of tact to be able to say, you know what? Because other than if Jill Biden wouldn't have invited Iowa, then what would be the real snafu in this whole situation? There wouldn't have been.
But she did.
But she did, right? She did. So Jill Biden and her team already, First Lady Jill Biden already feeling the brunt, right? They already feel the brunt of it. The embarrassment comes now where the fact is that you want to, not only did you say, no, we're not going, now you want to bring the Obamas. Look, again, this is understanding power. This is understanding relationship. President Obama and Michelle Obama are not going to throw themselves in the mix of this whole situation. That is not happening. That is definitely not happening, bro.
And they had
I get it. She's young, so maybe she don't understand the power dynamics of the situation. But that's just not happening. My thing is for us as people that we got to be very mindful of power and relationships. We got to be mindful that as we pumping up people to speak their truth. Let me just ask this question, Sinedu. I want to hear from you, so. How many of us at 19, 20 years old was ever been in a national spotlight? And we had to navigate and maneuver through all of the chatter from the sports world. Now you go out, not only you just did a decisive victory, now you got to deal with the chatter from the political world and from social media and from mainstream media now. Everybody in the country is talking about you at 19, 20 years old. We never had to deal with that. Some of us. I probably would say a lot of us probably haven't had that, never had to deal with that. I didn't even have to deal with that. So we can't just say, expect the system to get it together. No, I don't expect her to get it together and have it all together because she's never been in that position. But I can say, sister, I think you need to just sit down. You say what you need to say and boom, let it go. Folks will speak on your behalf. All right, Sinedu, talk to me, bro.
I think the last thing I'll say on this is another very important part, very important that no one should ever forget. Going to the White House is just ceremonious. It does nothing for the school. Nothing. It does nothing. Will it put you on the national stage? Surely. But it doesn't come with any money. It's ceremonious. It's not mandatory. That is number one. If the students decide, if the team, the ones who played, not the school didn't play, the team played for the school on the school's behalf. If the team says they don't want to go, they don't want to go. Hopefully that can be respected. And I think we should look at it like that, because remember, just a couple of months ago, we discussed quiet quitting, something that my mother would never do, or my father, but this generation would. Again, it is wise that we're cognizant of the folks that we're trying to help in the ways that they deem helpful, not only on what we would do, because they don't operate how we would operate. I think she kind of went a bit above her hunches, sure, all of those good things. But if the entire team decides they don't want to go, they shouldn't. And in theory, again, looking at it in hindsight, the way you could have done this best is could have kept it very quiet, like you said. Let Jill Biden say what she says. Let Joe say what Joe needed to say, and then maybe like, oh, this is such a great honor to go to the White House. Oh, I would love, as the first HBCU, blah, 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 I would have loved to see the first Black president. And, who knows, that could have happened differently, but then it didn't. And I think also we have to look, and it's unfortunate, and I know what I'm about to say right now is just kind of wishful thinking, but it is so hard to play the game of being Black when the rules continue to stack. Who can remember that all? Who passes the rules of what you have to know to be a Black person there? That's
real. That's real.
It's actually an impossible game to win. Hence the reason why we love like civil disobedience and so on and so forth, because you do it the right way, you lose. You do it the wrong way, you lose. So it's like, but hopefully we will see what happens to these young women. I really hope that good comes out of this for them. And I wish a great future on these young women who are just learning. I'm happy that people are interested in basketball, because just about a year or two ago, women's basketball, a year ago, people were debating.
Yeah, you're right.
Did they care about women who played basketball when PG was in Russia? So
and look, here's the thing that as we close out on this, the one big thing that I don't want to see is for her being penalized by the school for speaking out of turn.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know who the team captain is for the LSU women's basketball team. I don't know if that's her or somebody else, but I don't want her to have to suffer any consequences because she spoke ahead of the decision by LSU's athletic department. She may have to, sit out a couple of games or something.
Or recant.
I don't know. It may come up, it may not come up. But she shouldn't be penalized. But my point is that that's the other part of this. At the end of the day, she's still a student of LSU. And by her still being a student of LSU, she still has to adhere to their rules and guidelines and their policies, especially if they say something to the fact. And folks, we just gotta accept this. And I think, Sinead, you understand it. After this whole situation, they might come up with a new policy to say no player can speak after a victory. They might come up with a new policy because of Angel Reese or because of Alex Morris. You can't tweet about a game. You can't speak about a game. We don't know, right? So there might be some consequences for the next group of Black girls that go to LSU. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that's why it's important for us to have this discussion, because her words, and I'm speaking of Angel Reese, her words carry weight now. Her words carry weight. And so we can't act like, oh, it's just her. No, she represents Baltimore Black girls. She represents all of those who felt like they were being marginalized and ostracized and forgotten from communities that have been overlooked. So we don't want to piss in the pool, for lack of a better term, for the next group of girls that are coming behind her. It's too much, bro. I don't want to see the little sister go in that space. That's what I'm saying. Sister, you said what you said. You did what you did. At this point, let the situation play out. My brother, Sinead, always good to connect with you. I appreciate you, man, so much. We got to take a quick pause. And when we come back, let's switch gears. We're going to be checking in with Mr. Russell Kirkman, author of the book, Maybe It's Me. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
We feel the hidden impacts of climate change that land harder in Black, brown, and Native communities.
Not many people talk about it because they clearly don't know our lives. But with President Biden's landmark infrastructure and climate plans, our issues are finally seen.
Removing lead pipes means we know our water is safe. Cutting carbon pollution helps our kids breathe easier. 1.5 million new jobs means stable work in communities. The impact we need
right now.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. What a fantastic conversation we just had with my brother and Culture Crew member, Sinead Duwakwafo, as we talked about that controversial invitation from the White House. If you missed it, make sure you go back and check it out. Definitely share it and pass it on to post it on your social media network, and let's continue the conversation. But of course, we will do our part to make sure we keep our eyes open as to what's the next step of this whole process. And, as Tiana, you said, I think a phone call will be made and they will be at the White House and this will be all smoothed over. Yeah, I think so, too. I think something's going to happen. But trust and believe, folks, there might be some other things happening in the internal space of LSU to try to rein athletes in. So, that has to be on the radar for us to keep our eyes on as well. All right, folks, I wanted to have a conversation as we switch gears here to talk about finding your happiness and how do you chart a blueprint for life. Now, I'm having these discussions because I'm finding that within our culture, we just sometimes need to get some new guidance, to get some wisdom, to hear other people's stories. So that way we may feel like, you know what, we're not alone in struggling in some area of our life. And so I'm very, very excited to have joining me today a brother who has written a book called Maybe It's Me. And I'm joined by Mr. Russell Kirkman, who offers a realistic approach to restoring harmony to everyday life. Now, Mr. Kirkman, he has a whole blueprint, a whole plan on how we can get our lives back together and, more importantly, how we can find happiness. So let's welcome him to the airwaves of The Culture here on the Black Star Network, Mr. Russell Kirkman. Mr. Kirkman, good afternoon, sir. How are you, brother?
Sir? I'm good, brother. How you doing, Farajii?
I'm good. I am good. Yeah. All right. I want to start off this conversation. First and foremost, congratulations on you writing this book, Maybe It's Me. This is a very interesting book because
Thank you.
It's a book that allows us to do some self-reflection.
Right.
And it forces us to analyze whether the decisions that we've made, the circumstances that we've accepted, is this the way that life should be lived, right? And so I want to give people an opportunity to hear you a little bit of your story, and then we can delve into the book a little bit. But what's your story? What was the inspiration behind you writing Maybe It's Me?
Well, it happened after, at the age of 24, I suffered what is called a double hemothorax, double lung collapse, basically. And it happened as a result of the job that I was on. I'd taken on this job. It was too stressful. It it had me at a point where it all came to a head. The pressure, all the anxieties that came along with it, and it just came out of nowhere. A double lung collapse in a meeting, and I was rushed to the hospital. I had less than 2% of air capacity in both my lungs. A lot of the doctors didn't know if I was going to make it or not, but I did. 3 months later, I was physically healed. But I didn't know. What I didn't know is that psychologically, I was not healed, because 25 years later, I was sitting in my office. I was on a phone call with a client, and we were having a conversation when I heard somebody bump up against my door. And I heard some commotion or whatever, but because I was in the middle of dealing with a client, I didn't rush to the door and what have you. But when I finally got to the door and opened the door, one of my colleagues, my business colleagues, was laying on the floor. He just kind of slumped a little bit into my office. And he was 10 to 12 years younger than I was, and he was having a heart attack. And he was having a heart attack as a result of, he couldn't seem to get past the fact that a week earlier, he had been demoted. Part of his salary had been taken from him, and he'd also been put on probation as a result of having 3 consecutive months of low numbers. So, what happened was, as I was standing there and I was watching the EMTs trying to bring him back to life, it all came back to me that, wow, this was me 25 years ago. And I made a decision at that moment, as I was standing over him, watching him trying to come back to life, that I was done. From this point on, I'm going to find my happiness, because life is too short and fragile to constantly be trying to meet the interests and the motives of other people and their intentions. Understand? So I finished out the rest of that week, but that was it. Turned my back. I never looked back from that point on. And as a result of me going through that experience and trying to find my happiness, this is where the book came into play. Because
now, Brother Russell, I gotta ask, brother, what happened to your friend or your coworker?
He came back. He went to the hospital, stayed in the hospital 3 days, came back that following Monday. They fired him on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's corporate America, though. You know, I mean, there's no rules when it comes to corporate America. And you have 3 consecutive bad months, in sales of low numbers. You might not be saved. And it's
that is unfortunate.
And the problem is, it's getting ready to get even worse. And that's why I want people to be considering finding their happiness and trying to find their calling in this life, because with this new AI program that's coming out, it's out the lab, and they're trying to rein it back, but it can't be reined back in now. And there are going to be millions of individuals who are going to find themselves out here in the streets and not being able to pivot.
We actually have a show on this platform called The Pivot, because talking about how you can make big choices and big choices to make a big difference in your life. And I think that it all starts with, when you're talking about that pivot, Brother Russell, you're talking about making that small but very, very important thing, which is a decision.
Exactly.
That enough is enough. That you're going to do things in a much different way than what you have been doing, for years prior. And when we have these conversations, Brother Russell, a lot of times these conversations are just kind of like feel-good conversations.
Mm-hmm.
These are conversations where it's like becoming like a motivational speech type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But you're saying in your program and in your book that it's not just about motivation, not getting up in the morning, looking in the mirror and saying, I am somebody.
No,
it's so much more intrinsic than that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, my thing is this. Well, finding your calling is most important anyways. First of all of us came here with the purpose, and there's a reason as to why we are here. There's an old African proverb that says each and every one of us came on this earth with a job that you can't be fired from.
Woo! Wait a minute, hold on. Say that for me once again, brother.
Each and every one of us are placed on this earth with the job that you can't be fired from. There's something that you do that nobody else can do. I mean, they can do that, but they won't do it like you do it. Like there's going to be millions of other talk shows, but there's not going to be Farajii and the way he brings it to the public. You understand? So you're going to be unique in your own way. Everybody has their own uniqueness, and finding your calling in this life is going to be crucial now, because you know you're here for a purpose. And it's when you're here and you understand that you're here and you have a calling, that's where your happiness in most cases is going to lie. And it's very important. But my thing is this, what I find is that each and every one of us, Farajii, there's been times, there's a period, there's a minute, there's moments in our lives that we're into something so much and we're so in tune to it that time stands still. And when we find those things in our lives, we need to expand that. It shouldn't just be a period in your life. It shouldn't be just a moment or minutes in your life. You should be able to expand that to being a day or a month or a lifetime. And that's the way, find those things that and sometimes it might be reverting back to when we was a child. What was it that you were really in tune to as a child, or what as you were growing up, the things that you found that you really wanted to do? Like, I know people are always talking about, yeah, man, I've thought about writing this book. Well, write the book. Because when you find out if that's something that you really wanted to do, that's one of the things that you'll be doing it, and time will stand still while you're doing it.
I gotta take a quick break because you're dropping some jewels, and I want us to make sure that we give you more space and time for us to talk, to have the details of this. Folks, we've been chatting with Mr. Russell Kirkman. He's the author of the book, Maybe It's Me. We're talking about finding your happiness for the blueprint of life. Stay with us. The conversation continues. Of course, I want to hear from you. So the conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been chatting with author Russell Kirkman, author of the book, Maybe It's Me, as he talks to us about finding happiness with his blueprint for life. Mr. Kirkman has had an opportunity to, to learn some lessons over the years from experiencing a near-death experience and to see other people getting close to death's door, where he finally said, you know what? I need to make some changes. I need to do something different with my time here on Earth. Brother Russell, I want to get back to you, brother, because I think it's important that, folks are still kind of awed about the story about your colleague. They checked in and made that point that a job will work you literally to death.
Right.
And that is the part I think for a lot of people. And I think that we really saw this play out, especially during the pandemic, right? Where so many of us, and even now, the culture of work in this country is changing dramatically, from folks calling for 4-day work weeks to folks still working from home and choosing not to, reintegrate themselves back into the office space. That people are starting to kind of push back on this idea that all we're supposed to do with this time on this earth is work, pay bills, maybe have a drink, hang out on the weekends and on holidays, kiss the wife, the children, rub the dog's hair, and go to sleep and do it all over again.
Absolutely. That's true. That's true. People are coming to understanding that my life has got to be worth more than just that. Trying to fit everything you got to get fit in on Saturday. Everything you've been trying to get done all throughout the week is Saturday morning. We jump up early in the morning, Saturday morning, maybe try to get a little run in or something. But then from that point on, it's about trying to pay bills, trying to get to the grocery store, get groceries for the following week. It's trying to catch up on anything that we didn't get a chance to do last week. Life is more important than that, man, and life should be happier than that. And that's what people are coming to realize, that America's dream, which has been sold to most of us, has become a nightmare to many others. And I think people are coming, being awakened to, this nightmare that they've been in for the last 20, 30 years of their life, and saying, hey, man, what about me? Can we make this a win-win situation? I mean, I still need to get paid because I need to be able to pay my bills, but also I need to have some freedom, and some, be able to relax and just enjoy life a little bit.
And you know what, Brother Russell, this is very interesting. I'm so happy that we're having this conversation, because I feel like we just don't have the time to just sit down and reflect and to really think about what we're doing, and more importantly, why we're doing this, right? Why are we, what's the motivation for us to get up every morning? And look, everybody's not like you and me. Everybody, in the sense of, I love what I do, right? I know that it comes with, so much, stress in the sense, and I understand that. But when I do this, I do this. I love what I do. But I understand that other people don't have that opportunity, right? Like that really is a privilege.
Exactly.
That's a privilege to do the job that you actually love to do, that you feel like speaks to who you are, and most importantly, is a reflection of your calling. That's a real privilege in 2023 in America.
And that should be all our missions, though. Just what you're talking about, what you've been able to do. I'm sure it wasn't handed over to you. You had to put in some time, some effort, some work.
Oh, brother, please.
Probably got kicked in the face a couple times by Mr. World.
Please don't get me testifying and laid on the sofa now.
I already know. I already know. You know what? But this is what a lot of people are going to be put in a position in the next few years. They're going to have to figure that out, and they're going to have to go through what they're going to have to go through to get where they want to be. And if that is something that somebody else wanted to do, doing exactly what you're doing, then they're going to have to go through the same blueprint that you went through to do it. But if that's where their happiness is going to lie, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Pauline checked in, Brother Russell. Pauline Hurt, one of our culture crew members. She said, absolutely, our life has to be more than working ourselves to death. Right? You're right. Absolutely. Look, I pushed back on that narrative, Brother Russell, years ago. I'm going to tell you the truth, brother. I pushed back. I was the type of guy, I did all of these jobs. I always did media, but I did all of these other jobs to sustain the household, to keep the money flowing and all of that, right?
Right.
But I started pushing back. I'm like, man, please, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing it. And this is what I've learned as I've gotten older. Money will come and go.
Right.
The only thing that don't come back to you once you spend it is time.
Exactly. You don't get that back. Time is the most precious commodity that we have, you know? And the thing about it is whatever when your time is up, it's up. Chances are most people, when they're encroached upon by death, they don't get a second chance like I did. And that's why, you know, for me, I don't care about bills and stuff. I want to be able to pay my bills, but if my lights get cut off, it's just an adjustment. I'm just gonna have to use some candles for the next couple of days until I can get the money to pay it. You understand? But I'm not gonna toss and turn and worry and try to borrow the money and do everything I can do to keep my lights on. I don't want, nobody wants their lights to be cut off. But if it's just an adjustment, it's just an adjustment. It's not going to affect my health. It's not going to cause my death for my lights to be turned off for a week or so. You understand? So
right.
So that's one of the things I talk about in the book. It's really about finding balance in your life and finding that peace and happiness, because that's what's most important. That peace and happiness.
And I agree. I want to kind of get your take on this, because I feel like culturally we may be in a different space, right? I mean, you're an older brother compared to me, and that's all good. And I love the wisdom that you're bringing. And I feel like somewhere along the line, and I'm speaking specifically to Black folks, right?
Right.
Black folks, we know that we have always had the ability to adapt and to be resilient in the face of great adversity. Like that is part of our DNA. That's part of our makeup. But what I'm finding, Brother Russell, is that Black folks today, we are much more sensitive. And I'm not saying, and I hate to use that word because sensitive doesn't mean a bad thing, but we just can't relate. We can't adapt to the changes. It's like if we hit a bump in the road, some of us just really fall apart, right? And I'm wondering, what do you recommend on how to build that capacity to handle chaos, that capacity to handle setbacks that life throws at you? Because I'm starting to see, especially within the next generation, everybody doesn't have, we got the potential, but everybody don't know how to tap into that capacity to handle adversity. How do we strengthen that?
Well, as I mentioned before, we have to start finding peace within ourselves, because that's the only thing you're going to be able to rely on is having some peace and understanding that situations are going to occur. As long as you live, you're going to have problems, you're going to have issues, you're going to have challenges in your life. But when you find yourself in that situation and you can sit back and say, okay, peace be still, meaning that within yourself, okay, here's the situation, here's how I'm going to deal with the situation. That's the only thing that you can rely on. And that means we have to go through this whole re-examination process that I talk about, in the book, as far as dealing with issues in our lives. We have to clear out a lot of issues and and problems that we're having with people in our lives, with jobs in our lives, all that stuff has to comes to a head, and we've got to find some understanding with that. I mean, even if you have a person a family member or something, and you got some issues with them, you got to make peace with that. So that's one less situation that's hanging on to your central nervous system. Because the universe can't communicate with you when you got all this minutia going on in your life and whatever, and that's what you have to do. You got to put yourself in a position where you can correspond with the universe, and the universe can correspond with you and give you some guidance, some real guidance. Because as I mentioned before, I'm a little nervous about this AI situation, this artificial intelligence, because there's a lot of people who are going to find themselves spinning out of control, because they're going to wake up and a robot or some kind of artificial intelligence is going to be able to do their job. What do they do now? What do we, where do we go from here? And it's not like the government's going to go in and start saving a whole lot of people.
Right.
So it's this generation that's going to have to deal with it more than the rest of, those of us who are 45 and over, we're going to have to deal with it, but we're on the tail end. It's this 20 early 30s generation. These guys are going to have to figure it out. So finding out, start working now and looking for what is it that you really want to do that will bring you happiness. It might not make you all the money that you might want to make, but you'll come to understand that in the end, the money is really not that important.
That's interesting. Because that's not the cultural message that we get each and every day of our lives.
I know. I know. Social media's got people thinking like, chase after this money. Well, it's chasing after this money can cause you, health issues, because it might just not be in your realm. It might not be in your wheelhouse for you to be a multimillionaire, or whatever. I mean, and some people are going to get it and others ain't. And majority won't. So what do you do now? Well, if something else brings you happiness, even if having your own shoe shine shop, if that brings you happiness to be a shoe shine man, then be the best shoe shine man out here. You might not be a multi-billionaire shoe shine man, but if you wake up every morning, you look forward to going to work to shine shoes, then that's what you need. That's what you need to be doing.
Look, I got to take another pause, Mr. Kirkman. When we come forward, I want to kind of delve a little bit into that. Plus, you actually have a 5-part solution plan that I think that we need to explore and just need to expose. So I want us to have a conversation about that as well. Plus, Coach Crew, I want to hear from you more of your thoughts as we talk to Mr. Russell Kirkman, author of the book, Maybe It's Me, Finding Happiness for a Blueprint of Life. What's your take? I would love to hear from you. A lot of you have been talking already about the work situation, but what about your professional, your personal part, the personal life that you have? You find yourself in need. Do you find yourself wondering, is this the life that you want to have? So let's continue to have the conversation right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been chatting with Mr. Russell Kirkman, author of the book, Maybe It's Me, as we talk about finding happiness with the blueprint for life. And Brother Russell's just dropping some jewels for us. First and foremost, Brother Russell, as we continue the conversation, I want to make sure we put it out there. Your book is on sale where, sir? How can folks get access to the book? And, you know, you do a host of, you do host webinar, seminars, you do online trainings and a lot of other spaces.
Right.
You're pretty busy with spreading your message.
Exactly.
So how can folks get in tune with the work you're doing?
Oh, they can go to Amazon. They can go to Barnes and Nobles. Any of the bookstores have access to the book. The books available, right?
Okay.
They can go to my website, but and my website is maybeitsme.org. So yeah, there's the book is available wherever they go and look for it.
There it is. Awesome. I wanna kind of speak to this point of, you know, the next generation. You brought it up, saying that 20 and 30-year-olds today, they may be in more trouble than we anticipate, because they're talking about always, you know, we hear about it, chasing the bag, constantly chasing the bag. Right. And my brother Conscious Thought, he posted in our chat, he said that peace of mind is way more valuable, way more important than a pile of cash.
Man, I'm with him on that. That's the absolute truth. He couldn't have said something even stronger than that. That's it. You're gonna find that the social media is really pulling our kids in the wrong direction. And it's gonna be a bad situation. I don't want to sound like, you know, the old guy who's you know, trying to ring the bell or whatever. But truth of the matter, it's not going to be available for everybody to become multimillionaires.
Right.
And we can't think that the government is going to continue to bail us out. You know, I mean, even there's going to be government programs that I just heard today on the news with the Social Security is they only got enough money for 10 years from now. So they got to refigure that out. So I like I said, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but finding peace is going to be more valuable than having a pile of money in the bank. And because everybody's not going to have a pile of money in the bank, but if you got peace, you're going to be all right.
Right. So let me ask you for the parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are tuned in today, even some for the young parents, how do we have this conversation? Because cultural influence in some cases is much more powerful and stronger than listening to your mom, your dad, your uncle, your grandmother, all of those things. So how do we have a conversation with the next generation to kind of curb this idea that money isn't everything?
We just gotta be straight up, just as you asking me now. We just gotta be straight up with them and let them understand that money is not everything, and that them having a loving parent or a loving family together, young brother who's out here looking for a beautiful wife, find you a beautiful, serious, loving wife. Be patient with her. Both of you learn together. Create you a family. Your family is going to be more important than the money that you try to acquire. And you might have to explain that we're not going to live maybe on Rodeo Drive, but if we have each other and we have peace and happiness and harmony within our family, then we're going to be all right. And And if both of us need to work, then that's fine too. We'll put our money together and we'll be happy, and we'll get the things that we can get, and the things we can't get, we'll be all right without.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I appreciate you for bringing that up. I do want to bring to the attention, though, that you do have a 5-part solution plan that introduces strategies for gaining an understanding of a number of different dynamics that exist in our everyday life. Let me just kind of go through them, and then you can kind of fill it in. First, you talked about an understanding of the expectations of others. What does that mean?
The expectations of others. Everybody's got to have their own. We got to understand that just because a person doesn't agree with us, and they have their own opinion, they're not a bad person, or they don't have to be our enemy. So, so we don't need to put such expectations on people to agree with us, or to see the world the way that we see the world, or do the same things that we do. You have your opinion, you have your life, and the way you want to do things, and let other people do things the way they want to do, and we can still be in harmony with one another. We just don't have to basically live the same lives.
So the expectation of others really is coming down to, giving people grace, accepting people for who they are, and then understanding that they are their own person with their own views and their own experiences, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah, it's not even important. First of all, you shouldn't even you don't even have the energy. You shouldn't have the energy to try to change them. I mean, we have to reserve our. You only have so much energy yourself. So when you take your energy and trying to change the energy of somebody else's, well, you're depleting your own self. Because most people ain't gonna change, regardless to how they are. They're just not gonna change. They're not gonna change because you want them to change. So let them have their peace, and you have your peace. You reserve your energy for more important things.
And that's the big part about this, bro. The fact that we often find ourselves in a space where we want to change other people. We feel like we need to prove that we're right about something. It becomes this power dynamic in a lot of our relationships.
Right, exactly. Same thing, yeah, in relationships and marriages too. And we have to let people be who they are.
Right.
And help them when you can, and when you can't, you just let them know, I can't really help you in this situation. This is something that you're gonna have to work your own self out of, or whatever. But I'll be here to support you. But I can't change you, and I'm not trying to change. And if you're with a person that you feel you need to change your direction and get away from that individual.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? All right, another part of your 5-part solution: help readers. You're going to recognize their role in a situation. What does that mean?
Well, we all have roles that we have to play, in life. For example, let's just take the marriage thing. When you marry a young lady, a woman, you have a role and she has a role, and then the two of you, your roles, should come together at a point where the two of you are supporting each other, helping each other, to fulfill your own role, and you should help her fulfill her role. But it's about helping. But you have two individual roles that you have to be cognizant of, and you have to be aware of what your role is, and fulfill that, execute on that. As a father or a mother, there's a role that a father should take, and his role shouldn't be impeded by his wife trying to give him the freedom to be the man that he needs to be. And the same for him with her. She might not be the best cook, but if you're a better cook, then help her cook. And then at some point she'll figure it out. But just don't come in and try to just impede on her role and just tell her to sit down, sit back. I'll just do the cooking. or whatever, because we can't, we can't depend on your food being good and what. Yeah, you understand? We all.
No, hey, look, hey, brother Russell, I'm not. I understand, because if you do that, then you opening yourself up to a whole lot of other problems.
Right.
Hey,
right.
man.
opposed to the fact that opposed to also that you're demeaning her and putting her in a bad light, and breaking her down as a woman. She has a role. Let her fulfill her role so she can feel good about herself, and if she feels good about herself, she gonna make you feel good as a husband.
That's right. Look, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Russell Kirkman, author of the book Maybe It's Me. Folks, I want to hear from you about how you're finding happiness in this thing called life. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We are having a fantastic, insightful, and just a reflective conversation with author Russell Kirkman to talk about his book, Maybe It's Me, as we talk about finding happiness. What is your blueprint for life, folks? How do you find happiness in this thing called life? We only got one life to live, so we have to make the most of it. And it is a challenge in 2023 America to find happiness, especially for Black folks.
Right.
So we got to figure out a way to make this work, not just for ourselves, Brother Russell,
no,
but for those of us coming behind us, our children, grandchildren, for the next generation.
Right. And I think part of that is instilling in them that money isn't everything. So get that out of your mind, but yeah, I understand that they're in this social media thing, and they're being preached to every day about how to get a millionaire, how to become a millionaire in 6 days, and all these crazy schemes and whatever. And a lot of them are chasing this, and they're going to find themselves spinning out of control when at some point when they find that it might not work out. And then what do they rest on? Well, the only thing they're going to be able to rest on is, well, I got peace and happiness, and I have a loving family, and that's really all you need. Because when it's all said and done, that's what's going to be there in the end, anyways.
Right, absolutely. I want to go back to this 5-part solution plan that you have. And one of the we already talked about understanding an expectation of others and recognizing your role in a situation, but you also talk about assisting with rebuilding trust. What does that mean?
Well, basically, you have to trust yourself first, and that's where the whole reexamination process comes into. We've got to go within ourselves and do what I call, a psychological tune-up, and meaning that we need to go in, we need to handle some underlying issues within ourselves. I talk about in the book about the 5 sub-bodies. There's the spiritual body, then there's the mental body, there's the emotional body, there's the physical body, and then there's the financial body. And in those 5 sub-bodies, there are two of the 5 sub-bodies where you're most out of line with yourself. It might be the spiritual body for some people. Others, it might be a mental situation. They might have gone through something as a child that they can't seem to get past, get over, or emotional body where maybe they got molested when they were earlier in their life and they can't seem to get past it. We got to deal with those situations first before we can find any peace in our life. So when I talk about that psychological tune-up, we got to go within ourselves. We got to ask ourselves some very hard questions and be willing to answer those questions with truth and honesty. And even if it means to have a conversation with the person who you entrusted and maybe violated you or whatever, not to go at them in a physical sense or even in an argumentative sense, but you got to find peace with that situation and having maybe a conversation with them or what them and let them know I forgive you, whatever the situation is. I forgive you, but I had to address this situation with you in order for me to get past it. Understand? Right. So we and when once you can trust yourself, with your decisions and then you're open to the universe to be able to trust you with whatever it is you're supposed to do here. When you ask the universe at that point, when you have peace within yourself, you've aligned your universe to the universe where your purpose and your existence is in perfect execution. Then now the universe can talk to you. When you ask the universe, well, why am I here? And what's my purpose? What should I be doing? The universe can communicate with you and you'll find understanding and reason with that and be able to pursue that. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Once you have peace with yourself, then the universe will respond to you. And exactly. I think that is absolutely true. In those moments where I had to, after finish praying and feeling like I was in tune with God, it opened me up. It felt open. I felt like at that moment I can ask for anything and I will be granted whatever, blessings that I'm asking for. And it is so refreshing. It is so refreshing to be able to be in a space to experience that, because everybody doesn't get a chance to experience that, like and I know, Brother Russell. But to be in a space to experience that is so true. Want to kind of get through these last 2 pieces. One of them is you talk about showing the importance of setting goals. Like you're talking about the importance of setting goals. I think a lot of us, we talk about setting goals. What's the nuance for you for that exercise?
Man, setting goals is everything, because that's a blueprint. That gives you you can't build a house just haphazardly. You know what I mean? You got to have a blueprint. You got to have a way of getting to the point where you put the foundation down first, then you put the wood around the foundation, and then put the drywall in and put the roof on it. You understand? So setting goals is just giving yourself a blueprint. So some guidance. And when you set a goal, then okay, once you set the goal, then now the next question is, now how do I implement this goal? How do I execute on this goal? And then that's designing the blueprint to executing that goal. But
you got to set realistic goals too, right, Brother Russell?
Yeah. They
can't talk about some big, huge, Herculean task. You know what I'm saying? Like, a goal that would normally take, you say, okay, well, I'm going to make a certain amount of money, You know, I want to raise my yearly income by $10,000. You know, there has to be some steps leading toward that. Or if you say, look, I want to get, you know, I want to learn a new skill, there has to be some steps toward that. Like you gotta break the big goals down to the very small, accomplishable goals. Yeah, get some small wins in it.
Exactly, and that's the design of the blueprint. You know, I mean, you put that goal out there. I need to make $60,000 this year. Okay, now the second question is, how do I do this? Okay, what's going to be the process of me doing this? Is it going to be me needing to take on two jobs to do this, or how do I plan on getting to that goal? And that's very important.
Absolutely.
You know? And there's just incremental wins, like you said, little W's. Little W's will end up being a big W. There
it is. And the final piece of your 5-part solution plan is how to maintain harmony for the long term.
That's it. Like I said before, you know, there's been something in your life that you found that you were able to defy the laws of God, which is to make time stand still. That's a heavy thing. That's a heavy thing to be able to do, to make time stand still. But whatever it is that you do, even if it's cooking, if that's what you do and you love cooking, that's something you probably should be doing. And you can monetize that too. For me, let me give you an example. For me, when I came to the understanding, when I finally got myself aligned with the universe, I remember I used to sit as a kid and listen to Marvin Gaye for hours. He's my favorite to this day. He's my favorite. And I was 45. I was 45 when I decided I want to do this music thing. That's why I'm known as Russ, the author, the artist, the teacher, because the artist part of me is the social conscience that I do. I was at 45 going into the studio with young guys. They were looking at me like, what's this old guy doing in here? Why he in here, you know, with us and stuff? But you know, I had something to say, and I was right. and I wanted to do this music thing. You know what I mean? Sure. I didn't even come on the scene. I really wasn't even listening to hip hop until Biggie and Craig Mack came on the scene. So I missed years of hip hop.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't really miss it, but I was dancing to it and listening to it, but I really wasn't listening to it. You know, right. So when I'm around 45 years old, when I really start paying attention to this hip hop thing, I'm like, man, I want to do that. So that's the thing that when I go in the studio, time stands still for me. I can stay in the studio for 8-9 hours. I don't even know what's going on outside, or don't care what's going on outside. I just love that music like that. Music is my sanctuary. So, you know, and you're never too old to do what you love to do.
I think that's the big thing.
Right.
I think that is like the cherry on top of this whole conversation for me, Brother Russell.
Right.
Is that whatever you want to do, as long as you're above ground and have all the control of your faculties, you can still do.
You can do it. Do it.
You can still do it. If you want to go into the theater, you can do it. If you want to do writing, you can do it. If you want to start a business, you can do it. And I think that this is the other thing. I'm starting to read more and more stories about people who have done everything from go back to school to get some degree to, you know, starting a business. Hell, some people starting families at 60 and 70 years old nowadays, right?
Right.
You can do it. And I think that is the thing about this whole process. When we're talking about finding happiness, the thing that sticks out for me as we've been having this conversation, Brother Russell, is that you got to be so in tune to figure out what it is that make you happy. Then start the process of working toward that goal.
That's it, my brother. You said a mouthful right there.
I mean, I get it. I get it. But you know, it's funny because the scriptures say that it takes 75 years to learn how to live.
We ain't life expectancy. I'm
still a baby.
You only got 3 more years once you. You only got 3 more years once you figure it out. If you wait till 75. And that's if you live to be 78. So, I don't know.
You know, we still children in this thing.
Exactly.
We are still children in this thing. Brother Russell, it's been a real honor and privilege and pleasure. Again, how can folks find your book? Maybe It's Me.
They can go to like I said, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any of the bookshops. will be able to get it. They can go to my website, and I hope to be touring in somebody in their area that they can come and see me, and I'd love to be able to speak with them personally.
There it is, folks. Russell Kirkman, who's just breaking it down for us, giving us his five-part solution, offering up his guidance and wisdom and the lessons that he has learned. And Brother Russell, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for doing the great work that you've done.
Thank you.
And sharing the wisdom. But most importantly, Brother Russell, thank you for being so good for the culture.
Oh, thank you, sir. So thank you, man. Brother Farajii, thank you for inviting me, man. I enjoyed it, man. I love what you're doing, man. So keep doing
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Trends Post is doing the most. Stay with me. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Okay, it's time for today's Trends Post and doing the most. And two stories that have gotten my attention that you may have seen as well. First story is a story of a tragic story, which is the story of Cash App founder Bob Lee. You know, Cash App, the medium that we use to send money to each other. Well, the founder, Bob Lee, a tech executive, he was stabbed and killed in San Francisco. He was a technology executive who founded the mobile payment company Cash App, and he previously worked at Square. He died Tuesday morning after he was stabbed near downtown San Francisco. The San Francisco police said that officers responded to a report of a stabbing around 2:35 a.m. on Tuesday morning. The officers found Robert Lee, 43, with apparent stab wounds. He was taken to a hospital and died of his injuries. According to a statement from the San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott on Wednesday night, said that the investigation is in its early stages, and he called it a horrific crime, and that the incident is under investigation by the Homicide Division. Now, Bob Lee was working as the chief product officer of the cryptocurrency company Mobile Coin. He was previously the chief technology officer of Square, now known as Block, a financial technology startup co-founded by the former Twitter chief Jack Dorsey. And then he went on to create Cash App, which is a money transfer service. And so our condolences go out to the family of Bob Lee, who died tragically on the streets of San Francisco. All right, folks, in lighter news, have you heard about the new Barbie movie? Yeah, there's a movie about the Mattel toy where they bring some life to the character, and it features none other than the woman who always root for someone, who always go for, what'd she say? She said, I'm rooting for those who are black. Issa Rae. Take a look at the new trailer.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
With the radio fast and goes cruising just as fast as she can now.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
And she'll have fun, 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 fun. And she'll have fun, 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 fun. And she'll have fun, 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 fun.
Okay, ladies, let's do this.
And she'll have fun, fun.
What are you doing here?
I'm coming with you.
Did you bring your rollerblades?
I literally go nowhere without them. Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken. If I wasn't severely injured, I would beach you off right now, Ken. I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off.
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
Only played that because Issa Rae is in it. Can you believe that? They actually brought it. All right, folks, let's just close out the show. If you're going to see the Barbie movie, because I know some of you, ladies, ladies, don't act like you didn't play with Barbie. I know some of you will be in the movie theater looking at that. I know it. We will see how that movie plays out as it features a star-studded cast. So that is the Barbie movie. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Want to thank our dynamic contributor, Sinead Wakofor, and our very special guest, Mr. Russell Kirkman. Make sure you check out his book, Maybe It's Me. Want to thank my dynamic team. I want to thank my man Joel, my executive producer, and my man King Keenan, who is our director and engineer, and of course my control room. And of course, I want to thank you, my online culture crew, for tuning in today and making the conversation so great. Make sure you do your due diligence. Support us here at Black Star Network. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app for free. You can also share the information anytime. And more importantly, we need your financial support to continue to do the great work that we've been called to do. So go to blackstarnetwork.com. Follow us on social media as well. Also follow me on social media at The Real Farajii on Twitter. On Instagram, and Farajii on Twitter. All right, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next is RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. And God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening and talk to you soon. Peace.